All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd like to thank Courtney with the City of Salem for helping us put this together, and also to our CEO, Tom Hofford. He is working overtime to make sure our chamber is growing and having great programs like this. I also like to thank, to my right, our Vice Chair of Public Policy, Jeff Miller, for helping put this together as well, and also our co-chairs. I think, right here, Katie Kostick, raise your hand. Thank you for your work. It's a little different today, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to, in a second, we'll stand and turn to the flags and state our Pledge of Allegiance. And then from there, we'll go ahead and welcome our guests today. And we do have a special guest here, Councilor Jose Gonzalez. He wasn't part of the program. He's here, though, and we are super excited to have him. So we'll ask him some hard questions at the end. Joking. The purpose of today is really to get to know our new leadership. We have 4 new great city councilors and a great new city manager. Very enthusiastic, optimistic about our city, and we're excited to get to know them and work with them for the next years. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and turn to the flags. Raise your right hand or stand at attention. And let's recite together. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may take your seat. Okay, so with that said, what we will do this time is we will actually have our guests say a little bit about themselves for 2-3 minutes instead of me reading a biography about them. And we'll do that. And right after that, we'll go straight into questions. And at the end, you'll have some room for your own questions that you can ask whoever you like, including Councilor Jose Gonzalez. So we will go ahead and start here with our city manager. Take it away.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you for coming out bright and early on what is this, a Thursday morning? All right, so we're making our way through the week. I am Keith Staley, as the dais indicates. I am the city manager of the City of Salem, and I am very glad to be in this position. I've been here since September, so I'm familiar with the community at this point. You know, I can find my way back and forth to the restroom. I know my way back and forth from home to the office, so, you know, I've got the basics down, but I'm also understanding kind of what drives the community, and you all are part of that. We had a very interesting, conversation in here on January 9th about air service, and I'm happy to report that we're continuing to advance that program. Just yesterday, the TSA was here assisting us in developing the safety plan and perfecting the operations for delivery of that service. So that's coming together. And look forward to your questions. And I've got more to say, but I'll pass it along back to the chair.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you. I kind of like the chair turnaround, though. I really, really do. I'm Mickey Varney, counselor for Ward 8 in West Salem. I was appointed back in March, so I've been in this position for, almost a year. enjoying. It's very, really, really rewarding. I grew up not directly in the Salem area, but my dad's family's from here, so I spent a lot of time in Salem, and I actually moved to Salem in 2011. I was a city councilor previously in Washington State, where I grew up, and there's just something about Salem. I've always been a go-getter in terms of when I see something that needs to be done, I jump in, put things together, and make things better for folks. Whether it be me pulling a group of my classmates together when I was 10 to do stuff for Earth Day, or whether it was after Title IX was passed in the 70s, bringing women's athletics to my high school when I was playing, because we only had a couple of sports and I wanted us to be able to do more. And so to me, public service and groups such as you that are passionate about the community and see a vision, that's what makes us tick. And that's what drew me to public service, and one of the reasons I'm sitting here now. And it's nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Linda Nishioka, Councilor Ward 2, and thank you for asking us to do this. I've lived in Salem for 25 years now, and my husband grew up here, so we definitely feel integral in the community. And I had been involved in the Downtown Advisory Board, and I was really enjoying that experience, feeling like I got a feel of what was going on in Salem and wanted to contribute. And I had intended to just apply for and be involved with other boards and commissions. This position here is a little bit more in the spotlight than I would have ever wanted. And people approached me, asked me to consider running. And at first I was like, probably shocked would be the first word, and then really grateful. And after a few more people asked me, I thought, well, if they have faith in me, maybe I can do this. So I'm here, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. It is, you have to navigate many things. There's a great deal of information that must get through, and I want to understand it all so that I make a wise decision. My feeling is that I hope that I can help Salem do things that will make a difference for Salem for the next 50 years, and nobody knows who I am. That's what my goal would be. And so I'm hoping that I'm a balancing voice and can do just that.
Good morning. My name's Deanna Gwynn. I'm counselor in Ward 4. I'm actually the newest counselor because everyone else was appointed early on. So huge learning curve. I, like Julie and Linda, never expected to be in this position. Like I said, huge learning curve. We've been doing lots of education, getting out to the community. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Julie's post about the homeless camp in West Salem. I've heard about that for years, but to actually see it and experience it was a whole new, just unbelievable. We have to do something. So I'm here to do my best and help make a difference. So.
Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, City Councilors. I'd like to share a quote with all of you that recently passed my desk that I said, you know what, I'm going to share this with the group. Hopefully I don't get in trouble. And I'm going to take you back to thousands of years, actually, BC. An ancient philosopher, Plato, said, if you do not take an interest in the affairs of your government, then you are doomed to live under the rule of fools. I agree with everything except the last part in this city government. The people here are very bright. However, I mention this because it is very important for us as community leaders and business leaders to get involved in the affairs of our community. And the first place to start is getting to know our leaders, seeing them eye to eye as humans, understanding why they're here, who they are as people. I'm honored to say I know just about every single person here, and they are phenomenal people just like us, work in the city, own a business in the city, or recently moved here, and are unified by the optimism, enthusiasm for the future of our city. So with that said, let's have some fun, let's ask some questions, get to know our city councilors and our new city manager, and at the end you'll have the ability to ask some questions. Okay, so some ground rules here. So Jeff Miller here, our vice chair of public policy, will give you a heads up at 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute, and then we'll pull up the red sheet at 2 minutes, meaning your time is up. Okay. So with that said, let's get to know a little bit about why you are here. So this time we'll start with you, City Councilor Deanna Nguyen, and the question is, what inspired you to run for City Council?
You had to start with that. I actually, in Ward 4, wanted to see a new face. I went to everyone that I know in Ward 4 and said, you need to run, and told them all the reasons why. And it just kept coming back to me. So finally, someone said, Deanna, if this means so much to you, you need to step up and do it. So here I am.
Thank you.
Well, again, basically I was asked. I did not think that I would do this, and I'm actually very grateful that those that asked did, so that I could go ahead and take the leap and be here. And I think that you were also asking what we want to do. Is that what the question was?
That's the next question, your top priorities.
Then that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nishioka. Councilor Varney?
Thank you. Oh, I'm just thinking here. I think when I started out on the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a salmon biologist. I evaluate the state's hatcheries. And is this mine? Oh gosh, this is really embarrassing. I thought I had this thing shut off. It's a lovely song. All right, I apologize for that. Oh my gosh. Okay, Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I realized on the board as I got to know more about how the city worked and about different grants and how projects were scored and the capital improvement plan, and there were so many bits and pieces that were pulled together, and I was so impressed by the city staff that I wanted to become even more involved. And so that's really what led me to run. Over in West Salem, sometimes we feel a little left out from time to time, and I felt that we needed a stronger voice, someone with some experience and the compassion and the interest to bring more things to West Salem. And so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Varney. Councilor Hoy.
Well, you know those people that you should never sit by in church? There's a whole group of them behind me here. Yeah, they make me laugh a lot, and they inspire me. My involvement in our business inspired me to get involved in the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce led to serving on the board for the Chamber, which led to hearing my dear friend Jeff Miller talk about policy changes and got me to asking, how does this happen? And he let me know that it was City Council. And that was sort of a separate moment. Then our Cisco rep showed up on a random Monday and said, I was at a party and your name came up. Would you ever consider running for City Council? And I laughed. And then I said, you know, I'm not hearing a no just yet. So I'm a person of faith. Everybody who knows me knows that. And I've just began to follow the path. Thank you, Mr. Miller. And that's how I ended up here. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hoy. And while we have you here, Councilor Jose Gonzalez, would you like to share? I think we have a minute.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Thanks. Thank you, Jonathan. Great group here. And I think it was just, a little bit of what everybody said here. Wanted to have a stronger voice for Northeast Salem. Felt supported by Tom, the chamber. And I just felt confident I could. And I think it came from inside. It wasn't outside. It was just really inside, just wanting to serve the community that's helped me so much.
Thank you, councilors. Every time I always see when we have an elected official really take the time to understand why are they really here. And I do think these people are all here because of the same reason. Their peers believed in them. They asked them to step up, and they did. So thank you all for stepping up and running and being our city councilors. For City Manager Keith, tell us what brought you to Salem? What made you seek the city manager role here in our city of Salem?
Sure. I was in this room in June, and pretty much that same question was asked. The sweat was pouring down. It was a little different circumstance there. There were three of us, all candidates. And, as then as now, I have been in local government since 1985. Some of you probably weren't even born then, and that's okay. There was government back then, too. And I have stuck with it ever since. I started as a planner in Palm Beach County and have continued to advance in my career. And when I looked around and I saw the people that most inspired me, they were the people in leadership positions. And I said, I want to be one of those people. And kept learning and growing and succeeding, and I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to closing my career out here.
Thank you, City Manager. Okay, the next question is, what are the top priorities for your ward and our community in general? And we'll go ahead and start on this side with Councilor Hoy.
Well, I would have to say homelessness, I think, and a lack of drug addiction and mental health services. And we need more of that. And I'm eyes wide open in our ward, Ward 6.
Thank you, Councilor Hoy. Councilor Varney?
I think my priorities, like Councilor Hoy, are addressing homelessness, because it's something we see every day and we want to do something about. In West Salem itself, increasing the services on our side of the bridge so we don't have to go over the bridge as often is a real priority for me, whether that be supporting our small businesses and spurring economic development, increasing our outreach services to provide a safety net for families and seniors who are really struggling. I mean, we have one temporary food pantry over there right now. We need things over there. Services like a laundromat, for example. I went out to Trask Hatchery yesterday, went past Hebo, population of 150, and they have a laundromat. We don't have one in West Salem. So one of my priorities is bringing those services and things that folks need in West Salem to West Salem. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Varney. Councilor Nishioka?
Thank you. For Ward 2, I would say that homelessness, again, that's the top priority. It's the top priority for the city. I think parks, maintenance of parks is very important to them. I hear a lot of questions and hopes for traffic calming so that we can control the people that just fly through the streets too fast on very, neighborhood 25-mile-an-hour zones. And I continue to hear a lot of requests for commuting bike lanes, protected bike lanes, because I'm very close to downtown, and some people definitely would like to take advantage of protected bike lanes to get to work. And those would be the things that I feel that is important to my ward. And they also are very involved in planning and development. And so I would say that, again, controlled growth. And I personally would love to see continued economic development. And I'm really happy about the airport.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gwynn?
Good morning. So throughout the city, I think obviously homelessness is the #1 issue, and then public safety as well. So those are the two, and they have been what got me why I'm here. So.
Thank you, councilors. City Manager Keith, from your end, again, the question is, what are the top priorities in your case for our overall city?
Sure. Well, every year, City Council goes through a process of adopting Council's priority agenda, and those are what drive our organization and bring our attention and focus our attention. So those 4 items are responding to homelessness, no surprise, engaging our community, planning for our future, and building a sustainable infrastructure and service platform. And thank you very much to our friends in the chamber for helping with the infrastructure component of that. On November 8th, we passed a $300 million bond measure that is going to be instrumental in building our future, building the infrastructure for our future. $157 million in roads, $40 million to make this building and the rest of the City Hall campus earthquake safe, $40 million for our fire department. They just placed the order for 16 new fire trucks. So literally the order was sent this week. So that's awesome. Another $28 million in our parks department and another $20 million for various and sundry IT improvements and affordable housing projects. So a lot going on in that space. But I think the most important thing for all of us is to continue to build trust among ourselves and in our community and with our coworkers and with our community. And that's really my primary focus and the reason why I'm in this work.
Thank you, City Manager. Okay, so the next question, and we will start with Councilor Nishioka, is what initiatives do you plan to implement to support small businesses, and what is your plan for attracting and retaining businesses and jobs in Salem?
Well, that's a loaded question. What are my plans? What I would want is I want to hear what other people feel would be the best way to approach that, and then bring that forth. I don't feel that I'm the one with the answers. I want to hear what choices there are and then bring those forward. I want to see Salem as a more destination spot, and so tourism, I think, is important. I want to keep the parks healthy and vibrant. I want downtown to be the same. So however we can support those things, I think that will help the economic activities of our town.
Thank you, Councilor, and I really like your comment about receiving input from the community. I think those are traits of a great leader. If you don't know something or don't know all the answers, it's okay. Let's find out what our community thinks and wants, right? Councilor Gwynn?
It's questions like that terrify me, because I truly have, for one thing, on City Council, we're a team of 9 people. So one person, while a voice matters, when it comes to decision making, it takes 5 of us to get a vote through. But to be honest, I would need input and help from others who know way more than I do. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hoy?
Well, I would echo what Linda said and what Deanna said. I just want to, I absolutely listen. It's hard not to turn around because they're all looking at me. But I don't operate without input. You know, I can't. I am not that qualified for anything. I don't care if it's my business or whatever. I need to hear what people are feeling and what they're thinking, and I need to be observant about what's going on in the community, not just my ward, but all over town as I deliver pizza. And I want to return to a strong work ethic. You know, I don't know what a city council can do about that, but I think we can live by example and sort of bring people back to a place of pride and ownership and strong work ethic. So as to city council, can't do anything without the input of others, and I want what's best for the most.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Varney.
Well, I agree. We want the best for our community, and that's why we're here. In terms of small businesses, my vision for West Salem is enhancing the tourism opportunities. Been following and participating, obviously, in the 2nd Street redevelopment. I'm excited about the West Salem urban renewal area, the possibilities of having that combination of mixed use and walkable areas, and folks to live in the Edgewater down in that area and have businesses down there and have it a hub of activity for West Salem. And so I'm really encouraged by the direction and the things that I hear and the feedback from the community. A lot of them remember West Salem, decades ago when they had the parades and the community was together. And I think bringing those things to a hub in West Salem will provide a lot of that feeling that people are missing and expressing that they would like to see again.
Thank you, Councillor Varney. City Manager, would you like to provide your thoughts on this question?
Absolutely. As with the last question, homelessness is an economic development issue. Try running a business when you're being impacted by people living in front of your business. Try operating a business in our downtown when people are concerned about where they park and how they get to the front door. So homelessness is definitely an economic development issue, and one that there's a reason why it's our number one priority and will be my number one priority going forward. Just this week, for example, we had concerns expressed about the Marion Street Parkade, and we're taking steps to deal with that. We're adding 24-hour security to the parkade and to all of our parkades so that there will be an individual patrolling on a 24-hour basis that can call in and say, hey, there's somebody in the stairwell and they're setting up camp, they're starting a fire, and yes, we will respond to fires with police and with our fire department as necessary. We'll likely end up closing the sidewalks around the Marion Street Parkade for some period of time so that that area can breathe again. And that area, we can break the cycle that has been established there over time of people using that area and all of the influences that occur in that area. So, yes, I would like to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. And we are ahead of time, so I would actually like to ask Senior City Councilor Jose Gonzalez, as also a business owner, what your thoughts are regarding the question. Or let me repeat the question for you here. What initiatives do you plan to implement or have you implemented to support small businesses, and what's the plan for attracting and retaining businesses and jobs in Salem?
Jobs, right? If there are plenty of jobs, well-paying jobs, then people will go spend. They'll go spend at our small businesses. And City Manager Staley's correct. If people feel safe coming and spending, then that's one of the biggest drivers, you know, just getting people in the door. Salem is a regional place. I grew up in Woodburn, Mount Angel, Hubbard, Aurora, back to Mount Angel. And whenever we needed something that Mount Angel didn't have, or Hebo, came to Salem. And talking to Mayor Torres from Almsville, she said, Jose, remember, we have to come to Salem for everything too. So we need people to feel safe. We need the streets to be cleaned. We need, and because that sends a message that we're open for business. So if we can do that part, and then owning a business in downtown. See, when you own a business in downtown, it's different than owning a business somewhere else. And downtown is people have to drive there. They actually have to make a decision to go there because we don't have a lot of people living in downtown yet. And so I can tell when people are ready to go out and when they're not. I mean, you can see it day by day. And it's nice to see the parks open. It's a beautiful park. And those are the things we need to do to get that economic engine strong.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, so we'll move on and with the additional questions, and then for our audience, have your questions ready. You will have a chance to ask your questions. Actually, go up to the podium here and get a feeling of how it's like to testify in front of our city council, which I think many of you have already. Okay, so the next question is, of course, there has to be a question around our homeless issue. What are your thoughts on current efforts towards our homeless issue, and do you think we should do anything differently? And this time we'll start with Councilor Varney, and we'll go this way.
Thank you. I am actually really impressed with the direction that the city has been taken over the last 2 years, and how they have put the ARPA funds together, whether it be the navigation center, whether it be the micro shelter programs, the safe park sites. It's a huge problem, and I've been really encouraged by the small steps that have been taken, the affordable housing, or just the housing for those that are most difficult to house. We have that being built all over the place. Things are in movement, and they are proceeding. I know it's not fast enough for everyone because you see what you would like to take care of out there, and you just can't do it, immediately. It takes time. So in terms of what the city has done, I want us to continue with the same direction that we have. The transition of folks that either don't have a home or are not in jobs, the programs that we have in place that are helping them step out of homelessness are effective and they're working. We need more of them. We need to focus our resources on it even more. But the affordable housing, and I'm not talking just about the homeless that we see right now, but I'm talking about the seniors and the families that are right now at risk of losing their homes. Those are a lot of the ones that we need to focus on as well. It's a real struggle out there. I don't remember the last part of the question. Okay, I'll get to it. Thanks.
Would you do anything differently than what's being done?
I actually, not at this point. There are some constraints, some restrictions. I know we're working through stuff with our codes. We have to work with directives from the legislature. The things we can do are somewhat restricted. And so we're doing all these things that we can at this time, and we are making a difference. So yeah, I would just continue with where we are going right now within the constraints that we have.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hoy?
I wish I had more time to formulate my answer, but shooting from the hip, I would say go back to what Manager Staley said about trust, about building trust. And being new to this, I really feel that the city manager listens and hears what is being said, and I feel really encouraged by that. it also, I feel the constraints. I feel the state saying, you must do this. And that puts us all in a tough spot, you know, on certain issues. I want things to happen faster because that's how I roll. You know, I don't want anyone to spend one more night in the cold. I do feel, would I do anything differently? I really feel that handouts without accountabilities or contribution to society is not helping. I believe it's perpetuating the problem and increasing the population of those folks who just don't want to participate or can't, and to no fault of their own. They maybe can't think clearly because of drugs or alcohol, or mentally they came into this with issues and it's just not getting better. So, yeah, I think there's more we can do, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilor. City Manager?
So I think as we've already established, homelessness is a really complicated issue and one that the city is not going to solve. The City of Salem is not going to solve homelessness. It's going to take our federal government, our state government, and our county government, and our city government in order to impact homelessness and change the direction of homelessness. And right now, those layers of government are not well aligned. A lot of the responsibility that should be happening at a county level, at a state level, and at federal level is being downloaded to local government because we're the ones that experience it on the street. We're the ones that are responding to the fire at Marion Street Parkade. It's not the federal, state, or county. It's the cities that are having to do this. This isn't unique to Salem. It's true for every city from Blaine, Washington, all the way down to south of San Diego. Every city on the West Coast is dealing with this in some way. I come from Olympia, Washington. Many of the same issues there. Salem is fortunate that we're going to see some movement here. Literally within the next couple of months, we're going to see the Navigation Center coming online. That's going to help. We're going to see Yaquina, a supportive housing facility coming online. That's going to help. Redwood Crossings is under construction. Another supportive housing facility is coming online. We also have a housing authority here, the Salem Housing Authority, that gives us a lot of muscle that maybe other communities don't have to respond in this space, but we still can't do it ourselves. So that's where I need you all to help us exert pressure at the county, the state, and the federal levels to continue to focus those resources where they need to be focused, which is on the street.
Thank you for your insight, City Manager. Councilor Nguyen?
So first, I'm not a public speaker. You guys have all figured that out by now. I do think we can do things differently. I mean, first and foremost, if we can clean up the parkade, then I guess my question would be, why does it stop there? Why can't we, whatever we're going to do there, why can't we do that at other places and other businesses downtown? Why does it stop? Because the parkade, there was a fire there and someone brought that to people's attention, then that in itself is getting attention. But what about everyone else? What about Julie's business where she walks out her door every day and has people sleeping on the sidewalk? So that's what I struggle with. I know we are a city that believes housing first. But I also know that there are other cities that are housing earned, and I think that we need to look at that. I know Kevin, I can't remember Kevin's last name, from Gresham. He came with us when we went to West Salem, and that had such an impact on me walking through. It's not just Wallace Marine Park, it's back in the bowels of that park. There's a beautiful lake out there, and people camped all around it. The waterways are being destroyed. And so it seems to me like if it's, why don't we get the Corps of Engineers? Why don't we get the EPA out there? I mean, if we allow, I feel like we're allowing it. So, and we can't. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nishioka?
I think we all feel the passion and the frustration that Councilor Gwynn just discussed. The problem, of course, is money. How do we pay for things? And that is a big challenge. So I'm grateful that our new governor has declared homelessness as an emergency, which will hopefully provide funding so that we can continue on the service. And I think that we've all spoke about trying to deal with what we see and what's currently happening. But what we also need to take a look at is truly helping, as Councilor Varney said, helping those that are all at the edge, at risk, so that we don't add to the number that are out there. And having been involved in the medical community, there have been opportunities where we provide medical care free for people. And I would like to see, because I know that many people do fall into homelessness because of medical bills that they can't pay, or that if they do pay because their wages have been garnered or however it has happened to them, then they can't pay for rent. And then now they have their children and they're in their car. And then pretty soon that can escalate to even further problems. And we do have a lot of single women that are homeless and are trying to care for their children. They have jobs. And so they're trying to do everything they can. So I would like to see things that could come before they fall into that zone, which, even it could be something as simple as helping them figure out how to negotiate the bills that they have so that they can continue on at least keeping in the apartment or wherever they're living. That's just one thought.
Thank you, Councilor. So I'd like to now turn your attention to another city matter, and that's crime. There has been an increase in crime in our city, and the next question is, how will you work to reduce crime and increase community safety? And this time, we can go back around and actually, we'll stay with you, Councilor Nishioka. So again, the question is, how will you work to reduce crime and increase community safety?
You come with all the loaded questions that we are going to have difficulty solving. Well, I do feel that our police force needs more police officers. We also have the problem of overcrowded prisons and an inability to have places for those that could or should be arrested, have a place for them to go. So I am definitely in favor of supporting the Salem Police Department and funding for increased officers. It's also getting difficult for recruiting them. So this is not, again, just a Salem problem. This is a nationwide problem. And then, of course, there's a lot of people that reach out that are saying that we need to improve the type of police force and how they go about things, as we see witness to horrific events for people. And so it, again, is a convoluted problem or a complex problem, but I would say that we need to support our public safety and ensure that they are trained well and doing their job properly.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nguyen?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Yep. So the question is, how will you work to reduce crime and increase community safety?
We need more police officers on the street. I mean, I think that's pretty simple.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hoy?
Well, I think community safety starts with me, with all of us, you know, as we're out and about, keeping our eyes open to what's happening, and not hesitating to report. You know, if we don't report, one thing I see is, and this is going to sound like a blanket statement, and I don't mean it to be, but when you have a corporation like a Target or Office Max allowing people to steal because they don't want to deal with the paperwork, so there's no trace of theft or how great that theft is. I know there was a sting at Target some time ago, which thank God that happened. But when my neighbor doesn't tell the police that people came and stole from their business, there's no record of that. So I think we have to be reporting what's going on so we can get an actual accounting of what's being done, and figuring out who the perpetrators are. Yeah, we were at a neighborhood association meeting last night for NOLA, and the policeman officer that was there talked about the ratio per 1,000 residents. Right now, we're at 1.03 officers per 1,000 residents, somewhere between 1.03 and 1.08. The optimal number, which will probably never happen, is 1.5. So I don't do math much, but it seems like we've got a ways to go. What was the number? 60 officers in the next 3 years if we would need to hire? Something like that. Something like that. Anyway, so greater awareness and courage to report. Yeah.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Varney?
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues. We definitely need more officers, especially patrol officers. Sergeant Kofoid was at our neighborhood association meeting last night talking about how his team is constantly being pulled off and put on patrol because we don't have enough patrol officers. In fact, he said the vacancy rate right now for officers is 10%. We can't fill the positions that we do have, to say nothing of funding additional positions. And it is a problem all over our nation. My son is a patrol officer, not here, but it's the same thing in his department where he works. You know, they're faced to go out on calls and do things on their own when there shouldn't be, I mean, there's a word, you shouldn't be out doing certain things by yourself and taking things on by yourself. But when you're protecting your community, what do you do when it's just you? There are a lot of issues. I think we need an additional park ranger. We only have one in our city, and it would be helpful to have another one. I also encourage residents who see things to report them, and I hand out the numbers for dispatch or which things to call. It's all communicating to the community so that they can report things, as has been said, and there are also improvements being made to our database so that we can track things and pinpoint where the problems are. So I'm very thankful that Chief Womack has stepped in and is implementing some upgrades and things, and we'll have the body cameras going. There are a lot of things that they're working towards, but it takes funding and it takes people that want to work as police officers, and that is a demanding job.
Thank you, Counselor. Now, City Manager, can you please provide your input?
Yeah, yes, sir. So much of what we've talked about today, this morning, relates to this, whether it's responding to homelessness, council's other priorities of engaging our community, planning for our future, building a sustainable platform for infrastructure and services. And we're talking about the need for more officers. Well, the reality is we've got 24 vacancies right now in our department. And that's not because we want to have those vacancies. It's because people are retiring and the recruitment issues that we've seen. We're going to be coming forward to council and talking about some remedies that we see. So that'll be coming forward. But in the long term, responding to Councilmember Hoy's comment about the need for 60 officers, that's what, a third-party study said that Salem would need to be on par with other communities, probably outside of Oregon, would be 60 more officers. We simply don't have the revenue for that. We're not even close to having the revenue for that. So we're going to need more revenue. How we attain that is part of the Finance Committee's discussion this Friday and the Budget Committee's discussion in April and May, and ultimately City Council's decision as we go forward and adopt this year's budget and look forward to future budgets. So there's that, the budget issue. And then I think there's we are extraordinarily lucky to have a truly exceptional police chief. Chief Womack is a leader, and he is a leader who sees a different future and has a different vision for what law enforcement was and what law enforcement will be. And he is moving our force in that direction, transforming them from warriors into guardians. And I'm glad that I'm along on that journey with him.
Thank you, City Manager. Okay, and then audience, get your questions ready. The next question will be the last before we open it up for all of you. So next question is, what steps will you take to increase government transparency and accountability to the public? And we'll go ahead and start back with Councilor Nishioka. Or timeout, sorry. Councilor Varney.
Well, I believe being accountable for the decisions we make and explaining why we make the decisions we do, I think that's one of the areas that I find most common in speaking to folks in my community is they don't understand the background behind and the information behind the decisions we make. The fact that we have public meetings, and the meetings are widely accessible. There's so many things that are implemented that, or that are available, that increase that transparency. And I think it's really, really crucial that we keep that in mind. We are here representing our community, serving our community. And to gain that trust, and that word has come up a number of times, we need to be transparent and open about the reasons and the directions that we're taking. And I truly, my integrity is at the top of my list. And I believe in building that trust. That's just a value that I hold very, very high. And transparency is very, very important to me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hoy?
Can I have another minute to think about that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilor Gwynn?
That just wasn't fair. I mean, I'm truly an open book, and if I don't have an answer, then I'm going to ask where to find it. As far as our transparency, like Mickey said, most of our meetings are online or in public. I mean, the only thing that I know of that's not is our executive sessions. I, for several years, have been watching a lot of those meetings online just to get a feel for, and that was before I ever thought about doing this, just to see what was happening and how decisions are made. I'm, again, always open to discussion, to questions, and criticism, I guess.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nishioka?
Thank you. I guess the question I have back to you on this is, why do people feel that we're withholding information or that there isn't transparency? As Counselor Varney had said, all of our meetings are open. And so I sometimes wonder, do people jump to a conclusion that, oh, we didn't get all the information, you're not telling us everything? And it's like, well, come and ask us, because I don't feel that there's any reason that we're trying to not be transparent. I think we work all very hard at being as transparent as we can be. There might be legal reasons that something can't be shared, and so that's truly the only thing that I can think of that would make it challenging to have transparency. So if people feel that they're not getting the information, I would say reach out and we will provide it.
Very good point, Counselor. Thank you. Counselor Hoy?
I'm so glad I waited, because that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I think it's funny that it's difficult for me to respond to this question when transparency is pretty much who I am. But in this environment, you do kind of have to get to know the groundwork, and how it goes. And legal stuff does come into play, and you don't want to make a mistake that's going to make it difficult for everybody in the long run, conversations, everything is public. One thing I find is people seem to say a lot, but like, Deanna, I don't know why you watched those meetings for years. I didn't start watching city council meetings until I thought about running. And I think that a lot of folks don't look in. They don't watch, and I'm guilty of it too. I didn't pay attention to what was coming. I just counted on the fact that people were in these positions out for my best interest, And so I had an irresponsibility factor coming into this. So I think they are public. Neighborhood association meetings happen. Show up, and it's a cliche, but your voice really does matter. But if you're not there, who's going to hear it, right? Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Counselor. They say the world belongs to those who show up, right? So those who show up are making the decisions. City Manager.
Oftentimes, I hear people, question our transparency when they're simply questioning the decision, the why, not the how. So, just because we arrive at a different decision than you might have made doesn't mean we weren't transparent in that decision making. But I think, again, this devolves back to questions about trust. And I think we are a trusting and trustworthy organization. I want to continue to build on that. I'm humble enough to admit mistakes, admit, shortcomings, not fully understanding things. Oftentimes, we don't have the luxury of having all of the time and all of the information that we need to make decisions. Sometimes we have to make decisions and accept the consequences and adjust as we go forward. So there's the reality of that. Trust is also derived from capability. And when you look around the city, I see a lot of capable people. I see capable people on council, and I know that the people that I work with on staff are extraordinarily capable. Are we reliable? Another, measure of trust. I think the city is extraordinarily reliable. Given the resources that we have, it's amazing. Call 911 and see what happens. People will show up in this building or where you live, depending on the nature of the circumstance. We're extraordinarily reliable. And then the question of transparency. Transparency is built into state government, local government here in the state of Oregon. It's hard not to be transparent. Yes, city council meetings are literally the tip of the spear when it comes to our transparency. And as you go down through the organization, obviously you get farther and farther away from that public, the public perception. But the reality is, if somebody wants to know something, generally speaking, the information is available.
Thank you, City Manager. And thank you, all of city councilors and audience. Thank you for being respectful. My thoughts is if you disagree with something, connect with your city councilor, the elected official, or if you really disagree with something and feel you have something to offer, run for office. That's a reality, right? I like to also mention a quote that I forgot who said it, but it goes. It says, "You can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up." And to the audience, all of these people right here, they're volunteers. They don't get paid to do this. They're showing up because they love our city, and I'd like to thank you all for all of that. I know it's not easy. It costs you time from your business, your family, and everything. So thank you for that. And with that said, I'd like to turn over to the audience and allow you to ask any questions. So when you ask a question, please come up to the podium here. Courtney, is there a preference of which one we need to use? Okay. Come to the closest to you. And with that said, we will have 2 minutes for the answers. Yes. 2 minutes for the answers still applies. Okay, so who would like to ask the first question? Okay. And please state your name and organization you are with.
First of all, Mike Herron, Vips Industries. Thank you all for showing up early this morning. First question I have is I have two questions really. One for Councilor Gonzalez. Thank you for coming. What is it about the job, now that you've been in it for 3 years, that you wish maybe the voting public knew about this job? Because sometimes we see, at most people watch council meetings every other week. And sometimes we're surprised in a good way or a bad way by a decision that a councilor makes and feel kind of like, I don't know how that could happen. So what is it about the job that you wish people understood or knew about the job that you do? And then for the new councilors, the question is, maybe a comment, not for every one of you, but whoever wants to speak to it. How do you plan to incorporate, or how does feedback from your ward and from the general public feed into your decision-making process? Because you're taking in information from staff, you're taking in your own personal opinions and feelings. Where do you strike the balance with public comment that you receive on the issues before you? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herron. When people ask me what have I learned the most, I say through the training orientation to become a city councilor, you learn everything you can't do, right? This is really like a meat and potatoes kind of position. I mean, it's where the rubber, all those cliches, where the rubber meets the road, all this, right? And what you start to learn real quickly is what the city does, as far as the levels of government, federal, state, county, city. And you start to realize we have a lane, some very important lanes, but they're very specific, and of course they touch other lanes. So it was, that's the biggest surprise to me. That's what if anybody wants to run, it's very specific what it is we do and what stewards are, what role we play. And that's really the main thing, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. And then any councilors would like to answer the question?
Thank you. So I've been on almost, I guess, just about 6 months. What have I learned? I learned that there is so much information, so much material, and even when you get that information, trying to understand all of the reports, which often means that I have to contact that city staff person to get further information, schedule a meeting. And so my goal is to try to gather as much information as I possibly can. And some of that does come from emails or phone calls from constituents, or at a neighborhood association meeting, their comments. So I do take all of that in and I do weigh it. And I feel that it is critical that that information comes in from each and every person who has something to say, because it will impact my decision. So I think it is important to hear that, because I'm not serving what my decision is. I am serving the community. Now, oftentimes, that community may not have all of the data or information. It may just be a viewpoint. And many people have very narrow vision, in the sense that this is my one issue, but that one issue may be more involved in other issues, and so you have to step back and see a wider lens of that. So what I have learned is it takes a tremendous amount of time. I know I was told 20 to 30 hours a week. I'm sure that I am probably spending at least 40 to 60 hours a week, because I really am trying to gather that information. I believe that that will change as I learn how to get through the information faster and become more confident in my process.
Thank you, Councilor Nishioka. And it has been brought to my attention that there are a lot of questions from the audience, so we'll drop the answer to 1 minute moving forward. Would anyone else like to add to this question, or should we move on? Councilor Varney?
I wanted to address the part in terms of how I get feedback, whether I'm going to the neighborhood association or walking around in my community. I think just being open, I interact and engage people wherever I am. If I'm at the grocery store, in a parking lot, wherever, or I see something, I ask questions. And just being present and being just involved in our communities and sharing the information we have. I mean, that to me is really, really a critical and crucial role that we play, because we have access. Not access, I didn't mean it that way. We have these piles of information, and it's available to everybody, but it's our job to kind of explain it. In my first career, I was a classroom teacher, and it's very, very similar. I mean, you have this information, and you're just explaining things, empowering others, getting them interested in contributing to the community, to society, whatever. And so that's how I see my role.
Thank you, Councilor. Oh, Councilor Hoy?
Just quickly, the word trust is coming to mind again. I think we have a responsibility not only to listen, but to follow through, and for the public to see that we do that. I think we'll build the trust in what we do as a council.
Thank you, Councilor.
Can
Next question?
I jump in really quick?
Okay.
I just wanted to say that being the newest counselor, I haven't had an opportunity to speak to a whole bunch of people in Ward 4, but if anyone's listening, if anyone lives here in Ward 4, I'm open and available and will respond. So I do intend to use feedback from the community in decision making.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, next question, please.
Thank you for allowing the opportunity to ask questions. My name's Ian Levin. I'm a commercial real estate agent in Salem, and I'm also vice president of the Salem Planning Commission. What I have today is not a question and answer type of presentation, but I have an ask. What we've heard this morning is a lot of comment about the need for increased policing or better policing. We've heard comment about the homeless and the petty crime that we're dealing with in our community. Something that I've seen from my professional career as well as my volunteer time on the Planning Commission is a correlation to a Supreme Court decision that's commonly referred to as the Boise decision. It's the 9th District decision that if we look back as business owners, we can correlate the increase in homeless activity and petty crime following the Boise decision. And no governments have raised up and challenged that decision. And that decision has caused a lot of police departments to have to step back from some of the actions that they would normally take when there is a crime. So my ask is, please, would City Council start rattling the chains, talk to state government, ask how we present a formal challenge to the Boise decision to get the conversation going to overturn that decision. If we can overturn that decision, we can reinstate some of the policing policies that allowed law enforcement to actually arrest and prosecute individuals that are homeless, that currently, that in an indirect way, that Boise decision took away a lot of that power. So please, as a constituent and as a volunteer that sits and hears community development, I think it's something that it would be very powerful if our city council could step forward and do that and lead, and if we get other city councils to get on that, I think we'll be able to present enough of an argument. But if you'd like to give comment, I'd be open to hearing it, but it's really just an ask from one of your constituents. And thank you. Oh, and I'm also a resident of Ward 7.
Thank you for your question. Councilors or city manager, any comments?
Boise v. Martin, Boise versus Martin was taken to the Supreme Court, and they chose not to address it. So our ability to impact that would be at a congressional level, at a federal level of changing the law, not the judicial remedy is no longer there.
Thank you, city manager. Any other comments? Okay, no comment. Next question.
Hi. Good morning. Brent DeHart, Salem Aviation. I'm not here to talk about the airport. So my question, changed the subject entirely. It has to do with something I heard council talk about a few months ago, having to do with public input. Boards and commissions, neighborhood associations. I was appointed to the Ethics Board, the Parks and Rec Board, CATSI, which is the traffic advisory. I love the fact that our organizational chart for the city of Salem has the city manager and the council at the top, and right below them are the boards and commissions. And I think I've shown that to a couple of you, but I think a lot of people in the city, both in the House and in the city, don't realize that the Board of Commissions are advisory to council, and the entirety of the staff is underneath them in the organizational chart. So I felt since the last 15 years that there has been a bit of less focus, is the nicest way to put it, on that kind of public input. I know you have a lot of balance to do. It's going to be hard because we have so many, and it's hard to staff them all and fund them all. I think you have coming before you, and the council has talked about the need to address this. How do we get public input? You can't force people to participate, but they've been marginalized. They've been marginalized systematically, and I would like to see more emphasis on that so that people can have meaningful involvement, and maybe more people will step up if they don't feel that they're going to a rubber stamp meeting. So all of these things intersect with what I'm hearing from you this morning when it comes to transparency. These meetings need to be publicized and in public and on the internet. And I've been told I could not show up during the pandemic and things like that. And there were a lot of things that just seemed like we could do better, Salem. So it intersects with your conversations about trust, with transparency, with how much knowledge can you absorb. But if you have expertise coming from a citizen group that you trust, that makes a difference. If it's from the Planning Commission or the Traffic Commission or the Parks and so forth. And like I said, your challenge, and maybe you have some ideas, is how do you potentially consolidate and to provide meaningful participation for the citizens such that they can be more of an asset to you in your decision-making role. I wanted to provide that input and see if you had any thoughts, or I know you said it specifically, Councilor Varney, we would like to hear more, and if there's something I could do to help, I'll stand up and volunteer as well. I'm not a citizen anymore. I do business in Salem, but unfortunately I'm not in the city limits. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, past President Brent, past President of our Chamber of Commerce. Who would like to take the question?
Me? Yeah, I just wanted to say, our boards and commissions, the meetings are recorded and are open to the public. It is The question has come up. Why do we have boards and commissions? And they do fill an advisory role, and I do feel we can strengthen that connection between council and those boards and commissions. And it is challenging at times. It is challenging to get folks to want to volunteer to be on those, and it's important to recognize their efforts. I feel that that Mayor Hoy, that's really a priority for him, is looking at our boards and commissions and helping them to be more effective and provide more information. I was recently appointed as the council liaison to the Salem Parks and Rec Advisory Board. So that's a way that we can have a connection so that I can report back to council and be that link. So we are trying to move in that direction, but thank you so much for the comments, because I agree with you. If you're on a group and you don't feel like your input is having any effect or you're not listened to, it makes it really difficult to want to contribute time to that group. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, next question, please.
Thank you all for being here. I think the last time I was at this podium was in Leadership Salem, so it's been a minute. My name is Katie Kostick. I'm with AC & Company Architecture. I'm also a member of Ward 6 with Miss Councillor Hoy. My question is directed mainly to City Manager Staley, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The City of Salem, having grown up around the construction industry, working as business development with a local architecture firm, the City of Salem has a pretty poor track record in hiring local industry services, very highly qualified local industry services, and I've kind of seen the numbers provided by the city lately to kind of track that history. How do you propose to really focus in on the economic growth opportunities within your own infrastructure development and hiring the local professional services firms that are here in Salem, so that we can continue to attract the best talent to continue serving under us?
Thanks, Katie, for the question. I'm not sure as I would agree that we haven't done a good job with that. I don't think the data bears that out, but let's talk about that. I was just out at the Guerin Island last week on Friday. We've got about $40 million in construction going on out there right now. Huge infrastructure projects, rebuilding a clarification pond, and sinking a major 10 million gallon a day well. And the clarification pond is a $30 million project, and it's being run by State and Construction. So, if that's just one sample of many, where out of $40 million in capital facilities, at least half of it is going to a locally qualified contractor. We have to go through a competitive process for selection of our contractors. We go through an RFP process. People submit proposals. We evaluate those proposals, and we select the most qualified person to do the work. So I think our local contractors have the qualifications to compete, and there we go. Red card.
Thank you, City Manager. Next question.
Hi, I'm Amy McLeod. I am a member of Ward 3. I'm also a residential realtor with Keller Williams. And homelessness obviously is on top of everybody's mind. And I've listened in a variety of avenues, different representatives talk to us about bringing us the anecdotal stories of single moms, people down on their luck, medical bills. But that's not what I see. And I have served Union Gospel Mission every Christmas with the Millers at courthouse, and we do the Christmas lunch, and that's not what I see. And I'm part of the Simonka House Giving Circle, and I know the numbers that they had of the actual single moms who show up for help. And those are people that we want to help. But the problem is that all I ever hear is, we need more money, we need more money. And the challenge is that I believe that we have policies that attract people here. So starting with legalizing all of the drugs, our state legalized all the drugs. And I just cringed when I heard the governor talk about the millions of dollars that we're going to use to build affordable housing. And I thought, do you think that that doesn't go out and attract more here? So what I thought I would like to do today is to bring to you my anecdotal story. I read a statistic yesterday that 1 in 3 people in Oregon are on the Oregon Health Plan. And I had an agent in my office who has medical insurance and was at an urgent care facility, and the doctor started talking to her about all the things she could get with the Oregon Health Plan. And she looked at him and she said, well, I'm not on the Oregon Health Plan, but she said the way he was talking, it was like this is a part of his regular day. And I can tell you that as a residential realtor who's very active, every single day I'm making at least 20 or 30 phone calls. And what I'm getting now on a regular basis is, Amy, we're leaving the state. We're leaving the state. Yesterday, I had a woman in my office who was in tears. She's selling her house that she's had for 15 years. Her husband had died there. She wanted to stay. And I asked her, as I've asked many people, why are you leaving? Because I've loved Oregon. I've loved what Salem was. And she tipped her head down, as many of them do. And I knew what that was. And I said, this is a safe place. There's no judgment here. Interesting that I had to say that to her, because the answer I frequently get back is government, government. And I knew what that meant. The marginalization of people who don't agree with, we're so divided, who don't agree with an opinion, that are then marginalized. But every single day, I'll have at least one person who's telling me, we're leaving Salem because of what it's become. And builders don't want to build because it's so difficult to get through the city. When I was working for Eric Olson, 18 months to try and get through approval for a 0 lot line house, which is what the city wants. And so I would just say to you, what is it that we're building? And that money is not always the answer, that it's attracting more of what we seem to not want. And I have the ability to travel to other towns who don't seem to have the challenge we have. I have the ability to travel to other states. They don't seem to have the problem we have here, and people are leaving. And I wonder, when will that statistic move to 1 in 2 are on the Oregon Health Plan, and the rest are left to pay for it? Thanks so much. I hope you'll consider my anecdotal stories.
Thank you. Would anyone, we are running out of time. Would anyone like to respond or provide a 1-minute comment? Okay, Councilor.
You know, that's one of the reasons I ran. If I just can't read it from here, but the city has a vision statement, and I think sometimes we're missing the mark. And I think that needs to be shared with not just us, but with everybody else, and send a message to what Salem's supposed to be. So thanks for your testimony. Yeah.
Okay, we have room for one last question, but it has to be, nope, oh, right here. Ask fast. Bill, okay, all right.
This is Bill Rickey. I sell landscape supplies. I own Bark Boys here in town. Keith, the question about local contractors, I think you're right. The data that the city has provided, because I've asked about that, city provided a lot of data to the chamber about using local contractors. I think it was like 88% of the time local contractors are used. If you take the time, you actually look at that, I don't believe it was malicious, but the data is not accurate. What I mean by that is if you could look at some of those companies, it's like the elevator company, right? Tyson Group, I think it is. They're out of Switzerland or something like that. They may have an office in Portland. That doesn't mean they're local contractors. Might be an exception to the rule because I don't know anyone else is going to do elevators for you. But there are projects in town right now being done by contractors that are from Washington State. Union Gospel Mission, they just tore down. Three Kings Environmental, Vancouver, Washington. I don't know if all the other contractors here in Salem didn't want to do that work. They're too busy, didn't think there was money in it. But that's right here. I got up and looked out the window to see if we could see it. We actually can't, but it'd been cool if we could see it. But I think it's something to consider, that data maybe might want to be looked at a little bit closer. Julie, to your point earlier about fixing work ethic, I don't know how you're going to do that at City Council, but I agree with you. You know, I've heard a lot about affordable housing. That's a foreign concept to me. I never thought the government could provide me with affordable housing. When I went to buy a house, I just decided, okay, well, I need X amount of dollars. I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna work really hard. I'm gonna afford the house. Not somebody's gonna build a house for me that I can afford. That I just never thought that way. So you're right, there is a work ethic. There is some moral issues. But I you know, to echo some of the comments around here as well this morning is, I know you're all volunteers. Thank you for that. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Would anyone like to respond?
You know, maybe we can, as we look at the committees, maybe we do one on small business, maybe we do one on small business contracting, maybe we do one, and maybe policy sets a goal of we need it, maybe in an 88%, we go 98%. You know, I mean, maybe we take those kind of steps, you know, because obviously there's a gap here. But anyways.
Well, okay. Board member Jim Vu. 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds, he said.
Like you really want to make me louder. Jim Vu, Ward 8. So 2 questions. One, it's only going to be 11 seconds each. It'll be fine. In terms of the board and commission, I've felt that frustration where I worked on a board and what a recommendation came out was not addressed or ignored or felt was disregarded. Is there a measure that the city has in place of what the recommendation was and what the actual action the city did? So just to check that correlation between work being done to seeing what's actually being implemented. The other side is mobile crisis center. That is something that I've heard many, many times as a solution, the CAHOOTS model done in Eugene. I believe the city council had approved that, but I would want to know what's happening next.
Does anyone have a 10-second answer? Comment?
I can respond to the mobile crisis question. That's a county responsibility, and we're going to let the county take the lead on that. The county is in the process of standing up mobile crisis response teams and a community crisis response team. Hiring for those positions is extremely challenging, and it's not the city's position to step into that space at this time. We're going to wait, see how the county does, look for gaps. Do we need to provide some assistance over in West Salem, for example? But let's let the county do their work, and then we'll evaluate a year from now or 2 years from now.
Thank you, City Manager. And with that said, I allowed as much time as possible to ask questions and hear from our councilors. We do have our CEO here. Any last-minute thoughts from your end or closing remarks?
Yeah, I would first of all like to thank all 4 councilors and City Manager Staley for appearing this morning. And it is early. And Linda, we do this once in a while, hopefully not too often for you. This, to the point of transparency and engagement, I work on the front line of this for the small business community, and I will say that all 4 city councilors here today have been incredibly open to the feedback of the small business community. And I would also like to credit City Manager Staley for coming into this community, engaging with us on a number of issues, and being front and center to listen to the voice of small business. There is a lot of transparency here, but it takes engagement by us in the small business community to be tracking issues and continuing to share our opinions and what we know is right for small business in Salem. I encourage you to follow along through our public policy emails as well as our social media posts. We do a great job in making sure our members understand what is out in front, and we try and do that in a thoughtful manner to give you as much notice as possible. But things do move quickly sometimes at the city level. And so if you see one of those emails that piques your interest, please engage right away. We've got a great co-chair team on our public policy unit that will really assist you in getting your word heard in front of this body. So thank you on behalf of our organization for your engagement always. Jonathan, turn it to you to close us out.
Thank you, Tom. So we're in the in your facility here, in our facility in the city of Salem, but we are organization, the Chamber of Commerce. We're a business organization, and I can probably say I can speak for all of us. We're here to help. If you need anything, reach out to any of us. We're here for you. And I'd like to end with this. I think that businesses create or shape the identity of our community, and if businesses are not doing well or they're not here, there is no community. So we're here to help. And take us on for that. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And we are adjourned.